All right, now that we have the majority of our back-end coding completed, let's go ahead and write some HTML. I'm using Emmet, so I can expedite that process like so. That was an exclamation point and a tab. It's very convenient. Within the body, we won't be using Jinja2 template inheritance. We're just having a single page here. I'm just going to have one h1 tag. And within that tag, I'm just going to label our page, just in the interest of clarity. I'm going to call it home. And now we're going to create our form. And the form, the method on that form is going to be post, because this form will be used to send information from the client to the server. And the HTML attribute action we will set to an empty string, as we want to send this information contained in the form to the current URL. And let's go ahead and close out that form. And within the body of this form, we can add Python by using the double curly brace syntax. We can access Python variables. So like we discussed before, we passed into this render template form and users, so we're now able to access those values within this HTML. Form.username.label. That's going to display the label of the username, which, as we discussed before, is username. We're also going to display, let's just work through it. So the next thing we're going to do is two curly braces. So we're going to accept the value of that username. And we're going to do the same thing with the password. All right, little typo there, password. And we're also going to want the submit button, and we do that form.submit, accessing the submit attribute of the form. So what that did is that created the form which will accept user input. And if you recall from the first video where we showed the goal application that we'll be building, we also want to display all of the information contained in the database upon every page load or refresh. So we do that by using, let's add a label and then we'll create that. Let's do a H1, let's do an H2. So within those tags, we'll say users, jumping all over the place, down to here, users in database. I don't know why I cameled that, so something like that. Okay, now we can insert Python logic using a single curly brace and a percent sign, like so. So we're going to use a for loop for user in users. So that's going to iterate through a list, and it will, let's wrap this in paragraph tags, and we use the double curly brace to access the values of variables. So user, which will be each user, dot username, user dot username, user dot username. Okay. And now we end that loop. Similar syntax. End for. Also jumping all over the place still. End for. So that is a loop which will loop through all of the users contained in the database.